quite a while ago, I decided that the title for today's talk would be "We Are the Ones We've Been Waiting For," connecting with that statement from that Hopi elder. And Karen Drucker's done a bunch of music around that, and some of it we have done, some of it we'll get to. I also thought about what we're learning in our Prosperity Plus class, and there's this thing that keeps coming forward from Mary Morrissey, which is that you cannot get to your goal, you must come from it. And this realization that so many of us have been caught up in trying to reach for something, that bringing our attention to the apparent difference and distance between where we are and where we'd like to be, all it does is magnify the distance and seem to increase the difference and sort of light a fire under our you-know-what. Because first we become aware of this apparent distance, and it creates sort of this festering, this readiness to do something. And then we discover what within us is in agreement with it, and what within us is not. And the fun really begins. One of our so-called inalienable rights as citizens in this country is the pursuit of happiness. And we kind of joke about how the way that it was written calligraphically, it looks like the pursuit of happiness. But we are guaranteed the freedom to seek our own happiness. The interesting thing is that if seeking looks anything like pursuit, we may be forever pursuing and never arriving. How many people have relationships with cats? Okay. Anybody know about cats? Okay. All right. So when you want to get a cat, maybe to get it in the house so you can leave for the day, or get it in a crate so that you can take it to the... Don't even talk about that. Maybe you're moving. Can you pursue a cat? No. Lots of smiles and nods in this direction. Absolutely not. You can't pursue a cat. Now, you could go out there with a little can of tuna fish and maybe say, "Here, kitty, 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 kitty." And if you maintain the vibration that has nothing to do with closing the door, getting the cat, or getting out the crate, or what you have in mind afterwards, you may even succeed. And then you might, like I did when I was a cat owner, feel terrible about betraying their trust. But if you have any idea about the crate, the door, catching the cat, what your real objective is, and it is anything unlike gentle, open, loving communion, the cat will say, "Listen, I'll even give up tuna. I know what you're up to." And psh, they're gone, right? Well, think about this in terms of your pursuit of happiness. There's a correlation. Animals know this really well. Anybody ride horses ever? Okay, same thing, right? Oh. Animals know when you're calm and cool and collected, and when you're just lying through your teeth. And you might end up, being thrown off or going for a wild ride if you're trying not to feel something while you're on a horse's back. The therapeutic animals, in fact, they don't even ride to do this. These people just are in relationship with and caring for the horses. They don't get to ride, at least not right away. I don't know the details of that. But what I do know is that when I was a carefree young person and I thought that I was like this combination animal-human warrior being, when I was a young girl, I could canter through the meadows and into the forest and underneath apple trees and up into the mountains, and I was just fine. Then I tried to ride a horse with a friend of mine who insisted that we go riding in North Carolina just a couple years ago. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so tense. I have so many thoughts going on, and this is a really big horse. And there was one point where he was so excited because we were getting close to the end of the trail, and the trailer was just around the bend, and, apples and goodies and carrots and all kinds of tempting things that he took off. All I did was I ripped my shirt, but I'm like, okay, hunker down, hold on, I'm not the boss anymore here. Animals have something very important to teach us. Oh, and the bottom line is that we have this thing within us too. We have this thing within us as well. But we've got to get in touch with it. And we need to practice believing in it and paying attention to it. When you walk in a room and the hair stands up on the back of your neck because there's somebody really angry nearby, that's it. So there's another kind of way that this instinct comes into play. You remember when you were a kid and you thought, oh, we could do this. And already before dinner, you've got it all planned. And you're so excited, you're well on your way, you're already making busy preparations. And then, mom says, dinner, wash your hands, come to the table. And you're like, no, I'm on my way to this thing. Well, we have that in us somewhere. That capacity to identify something and to be in it fully, thinking and feeling and getting ready. We have that. Animals are connected intuitively and naturally without interruption. And so are we. However, because we have this gift of self-knowingness, of self-reflection, and of volition, which we call choice, we get to listen to or ignore that connection. We get to listen to or ignore that advice. Or we can hear it and decide that it means something different according to what our brain and our ego has to say about it. Or perhaps our history, or perhaps our culture, or some delightful combination of all of those things. So, in this idea of pursuing happiness, seeking, looking for someone, something, a solution to a problem, the fulfillment of our dream. Many of us are crafting and recrafting and visiting and revisiting these vision statements, which have 4 components in them. One is about perfect health. It has something to do with our health and well-being in a very holistic sense. The other is about harmony in our relationships. The next one is about creative self-expression, that we have at least one avenue of that in our daily lives. And the final one is that we move through the material world with ease. And every one of these things is bringing up that seeming difference and distance between where we are and where we'd like to be. We were talking about this a little last week. And so you may have some disruptions and eruptions and other kinds of eruptions as this stuff comes up. It's perfectly natural. And a good thing to remember is that we can't stop being connected to that thing that is within us, like it is in our cats and horses and dogs and other animals, that always has known, knows now, and always will know, and at every single unique moment, where to be, what to do, what it all means. That guiding force is within each and every one of us. So we have that. This idea then of pursuing our happiness needs a little bit of an adjustment. Because pursuit means that we're coming from not having. Pursuit means that we're coming from some other place than the one in which we'd like to be. As a matter of fact, seeking is the same concept. And yet, we come in here and we're supposed to declare things we can't see yet. And say things that don't appear to be true yet. You just have to lie. Okay. Well, there's a beautiful bunch of people all around you who are doing the same thing and saying, it's all right. We understand the order of things. For something to show up out there, first we have to think it and feel it and believe it in here. And then it does. It will. It must. There's an interesting thing that Ernest Holmes said or wrote in one of the books that we're studying in one of our classes. And let's say, okay, it's here. We suffer because we are not in both conscious and subjective communion with the affirmative side of life. In plain English, what that means is that when we're thinking one thing and we're feeling another, first of all, we're not in communion with anything because we're already a house divided. So we can't create from there because we're essentially all bound up with it and trying to entertain two ideas. We're not also in communion with the affirmative side of life, which is that universal yes, the yes factor. So if we put this in plain terms, what we do want in order to achieve this happiness we have been seeking, pursuing. What we do want in order to become it rather than ever be reaching for it is to create this alignment between what we're thinking and feeling so that it can show up as our experience. There's a little more than that. Imagine that this is head and heart and body. Stepping out a little further, imagine that this is heaven and earth. It's the same thing. So we want both agreement and alignment with head and heart in order that we can experience that between heaven and earth as our experience. And probably for it to show up as something magnificent, as all that it can be, it should be in alignment with and connected to that intuitive knowing, that ever-present, ever-wise voice, the one mind, our higher self, that one within us and all around us, which knows already. So when we look at this idea then of the pursuit of happiness and we recognize what Mary Morrissey said, that we cannot get to our goals, we must come from them, and then we say, well, gosh, how do I do that? I guess I'm going to have to shed this mindset of seeking and reaching and longing and wanting and striving and struggling. And do what? Think in a new way. Feel in a new way. Look at what your cats and dogs do. Any animal, when they're happy, what do? They're relaxed. Some of you may read the Science of Mind magazine, and I think I mentioned it already last week, but Reverend Dr. Bob Lucken has a dog named Murphy. And there was a correspondence from Murphy in one of the daily meditations. And he said, you know, my owner, he just worries too much. What he needs to do is just occasionally lay on his back and relax. Take a nap. Animals already know how to trust and to let go and to tune in with what's most important in any moment and to simply not worry about the rest and leave that to us. Well, we can let it go too. So we have this thing. We say, okay, I'm going to give up seeking. I'm going to give up reaching. I'm going to give up trying to get to. And I'm going to practice coming from. How do I do that? Well, remember we were talking about being enthusiastic children, getting an idea, and before dinner time we had it all worked out and we were ready to start a foundation or a company or something, and our parents said, oh, some parents, by the way, say, great, how can I help you? And you find, 11-year-olds starting corporations or nonprofits, or foundations and things. That same person that we were back then is still within us. So what we can do to get from where we are to where we'd like to be, what we can do in order to come from our goal rather than reach for it, is to remember that kid. And think of our dream as one that is unstoppable. One of the Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey meditations during this season's challenge says, I know it says I am unstoppable. What's the first part? I am inspired. I am unstoppable. So if you want to take that on, walk around and say, I am inspired and I am unstoppable. That would be great. So whatever it is that we choose to do, we can call upon this child within that already knows how to do it. The child within us already knows how to come from our goal. We just learn to hold back because we were taught that it was prudent, that we should wait until later, that we were too young, or we can't afford it, or there isn't enough time, or that's a lovely idea, but reality knocks. We're here right now to make a new choice, and we're free to do it. The truth also about pursuing happiness, pursuing anything, is that it is within us already. That thing that we have looked for, they've told us now that it was hidden in the one place we'd never look, right here. Right? Nearer than your neck vein, closer than your breathing, closer than your hands and feet. That thing is right here within us. So I invite you to think about yourself, the child within you, your dreams in a new way. And when you see a cat or a dog or a horse, or think about one you've known before, recognize there's that connection that's always been there. It's so easy. There's no work involved except letting go, except saying yes. And so much good awaits. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes as we close this all up with a bow of spiritual mind treatment, and secure it in our minds and hearts to take home today. There is one all-knowing mind, one all-loving heart, one all-encompassing body, one all-inclusive life. It has made each and every one of us out of itself, and equipped each and every one of us with all of its qualities, everything that we desire, all that we require to live lives fully manifested as the beauty and the magnificence, the perfection and the joy that we are. Because this is so, I know that whatever we've dreamt about, whatever we are dreaming about now, is possible. I recognize that we cannot desire a thing unless and until it is within our reach. So this desire is an announcement. It is an announcement of the readiness of situations and circumstances and resources to fulfill this dream now. And so I speak my word for each and every one of us, knowing that our answer is yes. Our answer is yes. We give thanks. We say yes, and we release this treatment. I release my word into the law of manifestation, the creative medium of the universe and all life, knowing that it is acted upon and returns to us fully manifest, wired, all ready to go ours now. In that gratitude, I simply release my word. It is done. And together, as we open our eyes, we say, and so it is.